It's a skill issue, I think. Well, it could be my team, it could be you, maybe. We'll blame you. I think is the way we'll go. But you signed with Kick? Yeah, they offered me millions, man. Of course they did. I said no. I said no. No, I don't know. If you could multi-stream to Kick as well, I would, but I don't think my computer could handle it, man. I don't think it could do it. But yeah. Continue. 15 minutes to get through here. We'll see. I mean, we'll finish it either way, but then we'll get to Carapac. Angel, are you joining Carapac? Or my solo in today? Did you miss the drama talk? No, it'll be the last thing on stream. It's not. It'll be right at the end. What am I doing here? Holy shit. What's this? Still better content on Twitch than your stream? I don't know about that, man. I don't think a black screen counts. There was a chance to snag a jazz book. You're not stealing the jazz book, I'm telling you right now. If you do, you get timed out for a week. Just saying. So they got scammed 250k by 21 Savage. It's not. It's not, surprisingly. Thank God. Holy shit. Imagine. A week. Yeah, a week. If you steal the jazz book, you get timed out for a week. I think that's fair. Can I end just Twitch? I don't know. At least I know that YouTube's running still. But you'll only get timed out on Twitch though, you know? I think that's fair enough. Off we go. That makes it more fun. No, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Is the Reaver Familiar useless on the crystals on top of Seiryu? No Familiar can go up onto the back for Seiryu. So if you wanted to take anything, if you wanted to use any benefits up there, it would pretty much just be the Calgarian Demon passive buff, which is why I use the Calgarian Demon. I think you still get the passive from the the Ripper Demon. I think, but yeah. I don't think it's as much as the crit rate from Calgarian. You just got to make sure to use it before you go up, you know? Necro 81 trash clearing is so smooth. It is. It's really good. Oh no, the Grimoire. We're losing money, guys, because we're using the Grim pages. How do you change the Zook Cape appearance? So the one I've got is the hard mode one. So it's the hybrid mixed one. But you can either keepsake them, right? And do it that way, or you can get the hard mode version. I've got one thing. What did I forget? I'm dead. No. Hold on. Let me just not die here. The Twitch notification got me. Let me just use this. Fine. 20 members or use one item for a month. No, not again, man. What do we? I did forget. What was it that you wanted to keepsake? Is it the same thing again? Is it the same thing again? But thank you, Medina, for the follow. Appreciate it. Can you do a high-level Carapac hard mode guide for skipping lightning? Like the rotation. I can show you it when we go. Oh, I can't because I'm doing. But I could do. Maybe I could do. I'm not amazing at skipping all the lightnings though. Right, we're on Masuta now. We need Grim pages. We got 10 minutes. We'll be right. There's a 9% chance of me dying. No, I don't think so. This is definitely like 0. Grimoire page. Mask. You want me to do the mask again? I mean, we can. We can do the mask again if you want, I suppose. What am I doing? Grim. No, not grimy at all. That's the wrong preset. Number 5. There we go. Are you doing raids in the near future? Me and my friend would like to have killed Beastmaster and Yaka for Ruby title. Next stream, if you want, I'll do like a stream raid, and you guys can join. If you want, maybe we can squeeze one in today. I don't know. We'll see what happens. If I have time after I've done the Reddit post and stuff, then I'll do it then. Yeah. If you're still around then. Of course. Can't do troll hands. I have the troll hands already. If I mean any override is fine. Doesn't have to be a keepsake. It's just one slot, you know. I think because it's for an entire month. So whatever you want, Angel. Whatever you want to do. Devotion. Grimoire's on for once. We're winning. Good. When's the raid stream? I'll just do it. I'll just do it today if I can, if I've got time. Otherwise, it'll just be next stream. We'll do like a Reaper one to help people. Why not? No, wasted finger of death. Sad. Don't know if you have it. The you have something better. Great. What is it? What is it exactly? If it's terrible, then I probably don't have it. Just saying. Caviar following on Twitch as well, and Papa Chacha. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Again, I don't know if it's working or not, but if it is, then cool. People are following, so I gotta assume it's gotta be working for like it's to some level of working, right? Carriers me, yeah, that's right. I knew who it was. I just couldn't remember your name for a second. It's not working. Oh, what? Well, that's sad. Weird. We'll have to test it. Maybe after we've done a bit of Carapac, we'll. No, we can't. I don't know. I don't know how to test it. How do we test it? Without just because like you can't go live on YouTube and Twitch at the same time without just like I don't think Twitch has a test thing without going live, right? You can hear me. You just can't. You just can't see the stream. Great. Good. I'm glad because I can't even fix it. So anyone who joins, you're like, yep, that's working well. That's working well. Good job. How'd you lose your GP? I just spent it all on trying to learn Warcraft. We Twitch for you because you're streaming YouTube? No, because you can multi-stream now, right? You can you're allowed to multi-stream now, right? I think it's a bitrate thing, you know. I think it's a Twitch thing. Not a Twitch thing. I think it's a Streamlabs thing. Like a setting or something. Yeah, if you weren't allowed to multi-stream, I wouldn't do it because I've still signed the Twitch contract thing, right? The agreement, whatever it was. But you can now. Slime Hunter helmet. I do have it. Can you keepsake it? No? You said you can't? Are you sure? Can you just wear it then? You want me to just wear that for a month? Is that what you want? Is that what you want, for fuck's sake? That's can we use the fish mask instead? Please? Holy shit, man, that's so bad. That is actually so much worse. Really should turn 95 weapon specs more often. Yeah, I really should. You're right. My DPS is freaking terrible with the necromancy. I mean, you can say with all of them probably, but I don't really love it. Are you able to keepsake it? No. So if you can't keepsake holiday items, you own it. They're usually just a cosmetic already. So like, I didn't keepsake it. You'll just have it if you got. Calgarian Demon's about to die. You'll already have it unlocked as an override angel. Tom, can you still see stream, by the way, on Twitch? Because you're typing in Twitch chat. Can you still see it? Just nobody else? This one. You can. That makes loads of sense, actually. That makes total sense. I'm glad that I understand what's going on over there. There you go. Thank God. Okay, so what's the date? 6th. So the 6th of March, I can take this stupid helmet off. Great. How's it going? Moved to also instantly, but the thought of grinding for hundreds of hours seems torture for agility. Just use Silverhawks, right? Are they not a thing? I mean, yeah, but that's the joy of old school. The reward of doing.
Guys, chill.
Ever wanted to be a ninja with a gun? An arcane track star? Or become naked? You can.
Archaeology is a useful skill that will give you access to powerful passive skilling and combat relic powers. If you're new to this skill or find yourself in need of help, you've come to the right place, as this guide will help you on your journey to level 99 and beyond. Whenever you're ready, grab your cup of tea and let's get digging. Archaeology training involves excavating at designated hotspots where you use your mattock to unearth materials and soil, gaining valuable experience in the process. As you dig, a blue progress bar above your character's head will fill up. Each time it fully completes, you'll discover a damaged artifact. These artifacts can then be restored at any archaeologist's workbench using archaeology materials, yielding significant experience. This restoration to 45 archaeology, you're going to be excavating on the Protomoid remains. You'll be able to find items for 2 mysteries, being Queen's Journal pages and the Icene remains. If you bury a restored frying pan and the Icene remains in the empty grave shown on screen now, you'll be able to complete the Fallen Angels mystery. Levels 45 to 47 archaeology, you're going to be training on Dis Dungeon debris in the Infernal Source dig site. Levels 47 to 48 archaeology, you're going to be training the Caradet dig site inside the prison. This requires the prison break mystery covered earlier in this guide. Now you're going to want to Levels 47 to 48 archaeology, you're going to be training the Caradet dig site requires the prison break mystery covered earlier in this guide. Now you're going to want levels 45 to 47 archaeology, you're going to be trading on this dungeon debris in the Infernal Source dig site. Levels 47 to 48 archaeology, you're going to be trading the Carradhead dig site inside the prison. This requires the prison break mystery covered earlier in this guide. Now you're going to want to keep and restore one of those Legatus Pendants artifacts you're going to find here and then add it to your tool belt, as this item can be used to cross the barrier located on the other side of the prison for level 58 section. At level 47, you're also able to complete another mystery called Time Served. Excavate the Presidio remains until you get an ancient timepiece. Restoring this artifact will give you a restored ancient timepiece. Use that timepiece on the ancient mechanism and soul controller to the north to unlock a door. This will give you access to a door and another section used for future mysteries. For the next 10 levels, you're going to be excavating at the Everlight dig site. Levels 48 site. At level 42, you gain access to a brand new dig site, being the Everlight dig site. Use your Archaeology Guild's map to teleport there and start by speaking to Vanessa Drakan, who is the site manager. From levels 42 to 45 Archaeology, you're going to be excavating on the Protomoid remains. You'll be able to find items for two mysteries, being Queen's Journal pages and the Icene remains. If you bury a restored frying pan and the Icene remains in the empty grave shown on screen now, you'll be able to complete the Fallen Angels mystery. Levels 45 to 47 Archaeology, you're going to be trading on this dungeon debris in the Infernal Source dig site. Levels archaeology, you're going to be excavating on the Protomoid remains. You'll be able to find items for two mysteries, being Queen's Journal pages and the Icene remains. If you bury a restored frying pan and the Icene remains in the empty grave shown on screen now, you'll be able to complete the Fallen Angels mystery. Levels 45 to 47 archaeology, you're going to be trading on this dungeon debris in the Infernal Source dig site. Levels
86. Ish. Chevy, you can have your switch for a little bit.
Excuse me, can I get this?
ไม่ได้ไม่ได้ฝรั่งที่ไหนเขากินกันมันเผ็ด
These items are incredibly expensive, but they are going to be some of the best unlocks that you can get in RuneScape 3, which is why they hold their value. In this video, we're going to go through 10 expensive items and unlocks that you are going to want to have at some point in your RuneScape career, even if you have to put it on a shopping list to buy once you've made the money. But this video should be useful for everybody if you're just going to use it to go ahead and buy it right now if you have the money to do so, or if you're going to use it as motivation to come back and get it when you can afford it. So of course, I hope you'll find this video useful. Let's get started. Number one is going to be the Limitless ability. This is going to cost you around about 1 billion GP, depending on the price of Vital Sparks as of you watching this video. The price of this video hasn't changed in if you're just going to use it to go ahead and buy it right now if you have the money to do so, or if you're going to use it as motivation to come back and get it when you can afford it. So of course, I hope you'll find this video useful.
The only reason I wouldn't let you is
Number one is
because
going
I
to
don't want
be the
you
Limitless
on camera.
ability. This is
Does that
going to
make
cost
sense?
you around
That's the
about
only
1
reason.
billion GP, depending on the price of Vital Sparks as of you watching this video. The price of this hasn't changed in.
But I'm not playing Fortnite right now, okay? Maybe we'll play some Fortnite here in a little bit. 21,000. Almost there. What? Yes. everybody there watching Trump wants Trump to be president. Everybody that goes watch Biden, they want Biden to be president, right? Of course, the Trump people don't like the Biden people, so they're all making signs saying you're fired. Da 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 da. Truth of the matter is, if you look at the facts, let's just say our country hasn't been in a worse state. Like, he really messed us up. Bad. Huh? Yeah. My tummy still hurts pretty bad. I don't know what. I think I ate something bad last night.
In a hell of a long time, and the reason for this is because it is insanely useful in a lot of situations. What Limitless is going to do is allow you to use threshold abilities with only needing to have 15% adrenaline. For anyone who doesn't know, you normally have to be over 50% adrenaline to use threshold abilities, but activating Limitless will give you a duration of 6 seconds where you can use any thresholds underneath that, as long as you have the required 15% that you would normally have to spend to actually use those abilities. The reason this is so damn valuable is that being able to use your thresholds earlier on in a rotation for, say, your Sunshine or your Death Swiftness or your Berserk could then mean that you're able to use it again before the actual duration ends. So, for example, if you use Sunshine and then an Adrenaline Potion and then you use Limitless, you can fire off a Wild Magic immediately, and then because you've used it so early on, you're able to use a second Wild Magic in that Sunshine before the duration runs out. This is incredibly important and can increase the amount of damage you can output by an absolute ton. When you combine this with other things such as the Fractured Staff of Armadillo, for example, you are going to be increasing your DPS output a lot. There's other reasons that you would want to have this as well. For example, in situations where you don't have enough adrenaline, but you need to use a defensive ability like Devotion very quickly. You can use your Limitless and you can allow yourself to use Devotion below 50% adrenaline, meaning you can probably keep yourself alive in some situations. I can't count the amount of times this abilities, but mainly useful in a lot of price of Vital Sparks as of you watching this video. The price of this hasn't changed in a hell of a long time, and the reason for this is because it is insanely useful in a lot of situations. What Limitless is going to do is allow you to use threshold abilities with only needing to have 15% adrenaline. For anyone who doesn't know, you normally have to be over 50% adrenaline to use threshold abilities, but activating Limitless will give you a duration of 6 seconds where you can use any thresholds underneath that, as long as you have the required 15% that you would normally have to spend to actually use those abilities. The reason this is so damn valuable is that being able to use your thresholds earlier on in a rotation for, say, your Sunshine or your Death Swiftness or your Berserk could then mean that you're able to use it again before the actual duration ends. So, for example, if you use Sunshine and then this is something that is going to set you back around about 150 to 160 million GP. Right now, the last price check on this was 152 mil, but it was 20 days ago, so it could vary a little bit from this, but is around about there. Not quite as expensive as the 1 billion GP, but for the use that it gives to you, it's probably seen as rather expensive for what it is. However, I find this super useful, and it is definitely something you're going to want to get at some point. What the Ingenuity of the Human's ability is going to do is allow you to cast an ability with 100% hit chance. This means that no matter what, you will always land the next ability that you are going to use, or spell, or anything like that, guaranteed. It is going to land. Now, the last price check on this was 152 mil. This is something that what the Ingenuity of the Human's ability is going to do is
Gem and raid. Please go to the wall.
With 100% hit chance. This means that no matter what, you will always land the next ability that you are going to use, or spell, or anything like that, guaranteed. It is going to land. Now, the last price check on this was 152 mil. This is something that is going to set you back around about 150 to 160 million GP. Right now, the last price check on this was 152 mil, but it was 20 days ago, so it could vary a little bit from this, but is around about there. Not quite as expensive as the 1 billion GP 4 days ago at 1.75 billion GP. 1,750,000,000. I've mentioned in the past, but Essence of Finality is items, and all items that even have a use in the game right now anyway are tier 95 weapons. Of course, these are the newest released sort of upgrades and stuff that you can work towards, but they all have very unique special attacks on them that keep their value insanely high as well. At some point along the way, you've probably heard the name Fractured Staff of Armadil, or the Bow of the Last Guardian, or the one for the combat style that you like hit people with sticks or something. I don't know, but that one exists as well. All of these do offer very unique special attacks that are going to be incredibly useful for boosting your DPS or just the way you actually deal with PVM as a whole. They're also incredibly fun to use, and so they are very, very desirable. This makes them insanely expensive, and I'm not going to list off all the prices, but these are definitely something you're going to want to take a look at some point and are 100% worth the GP investment that it is going to take for you. So again, this next one isn't too expensive to buy in the first place, but goddamn is it expensive to upkeep. Many of you guys probably already know this is going to be, and this is going to be the Grimoire. The Grimoire to buy right now is going to set you back around about 200 million GP. The last price check was almost a month ago at 215 mil. The G price is like 180 mil, so we can probably 9 million GP an hour to run this thing. And yes, you're going to want to use this pretty much everywhere once you get it and once you unlock tier 95 weapons. As far as I'm aware, all tier 95 combat styles are pretty much grimlocked at this point, unless of course more often. Moving on to number 7, we are going to be taking a look at tier 99 curses, the Praesul Codex. The Praesul Codex has taken a little bit of a spike in price lately because of necromancy, but this is going to set you back around about 900 to 925, maybe 950 mil, around about this floating point as of right now. Now, this may sound expensive, but it's kind of worth it, and I wouldn't doubt it for a second. Getting one of these changed the entire experience of PVM for me, and I put it off way too long back in the day when I got mine for the other styles. Going from tier 95 prayers, DPS prayers, to the tier 99s, which is Malevolence, Desolation, or Affliction, is a huge DPS increase. I don't know, dude, you notice it. You notice this big time. It is something you're going to want to invest in, as it is going to be a major part of actually doing PVM and getting faster kills, which then leads to more money because you can kill the bosses quicker and more often. Makes killing bosses easier as well, if you consider the fact that if you have DPS checks, getting through those is easier. This is just an item that should be on every PVMer's expenses list. It's 1 billion GP, about, pretty much, like, let's be honest, 940, 950 mil. You just round it up to 1 bill, but it is absolutely worth every single penny, in my opinion. And yes, for anybody wondering, it has been confirmed that this will be a thing that is useful for necromancy as well. There will be a tier 99 DPS curse for necromancy, so if you don't have one of these ready for necromancy, it might be worth grabbing one, because they may just go up again even more. We don't know yet. They may go down, they may go up, we don't know, but I can only imagine that when it does come out, there's probably going to be another spike. That's what my brain would tell me, but again, I don't merge. Who knows? Here's one that I absolutely hate. Best in slot perks. I can't give you a value on how expensive this is going to be because it is RNG. This is why I hate it. But getting best in slot perks through invention for your gear is going to be a massive upgrade, and it's also going to be a massive hole in your money pouch, because you can go really, really unlucky on this, or you could be that lucky little piece of that gets it straight away and goes, hey, Innit, I know you rolled 9 times for Aftershock 4 Equilibrium 2, and you still... Before we get to number... Slot perks through invention for your gear is going to be a massive upgrade, and it's also going to be a massive hole in your money pouch, because you can go really, really unlucky on this, or you could be that lucky little piece of that gets it straight away, then goes, hey, Innit, I know you rolled 9 times for Aftershock 4 Equilibrium 2, and you still... Before we get to number...
I have like a chest that holds all this stuff. I forget how to do this. Soil box. What else? Excuse me. Jemison and Raiden, knock it off. Jemison, go sit in the brown chair, please.
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the unlocks and the items that almost every PVMer is going to want to work towards. Now, this is going to be kind of like the basics and not necessarily absolutely everything that you are going to want to get, as of course there's going to be way too many things for me to include that in just one video. So if you have everything on here and you tick everything off, it will provide you with a pretty decent foundation to the things that you would want to have for PVM. That being said, there of course will still be things that you would like to get and unlock and work towards that aren't mentioned in this video. That being said, this will be the majority of the things that you would want to get to be able to get started, and then there's going to be some extra stuff thrown in there too. So hopefully this is interesting to a lot of you guys, hopefully you find it useful, and hopefully it does help quite a few people out. Anyway, if you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's go. So we're going to start off by separating this up into 3 different sections, and we're going to start off with quests and skills. We're going to tie them in together because it's kind of like the foundation of your account itself, and then we're going to move on to items, and then we'll move on to like extra things that are worth unlocking that maybe aren't necessarily anything early on or anything that you kind of everybody will want to have, but things that are worth mentioning and things that are worth grabbing as well. So we will start off with the quests and the skills that you will definitely want to have, as the benefits that they do provide are just way too good to ignore. These are not going to be in any specific order, you'll just have to tick them off as you go along, but we are starting off with Ancient Magic Spellbook, which comes from the Desert Treasure questline. Now also you can work towards the City at Sentiston as well to unlock extra Ancient Magic spells, but having the Ancient Magic is pretty important as it does give you quite a lot of different spells that you can use, and if you are using magic as one of your main combat styles, you will definitely be wanting the Ancient Magic Spellbook. That being said, it also provides some other useful things as well, especially once you have completed the City at Sentiston, giving you access to Smoke Cloud, giving you access to Animate Dead, and giving you access to the tier 99 magic spells, which you are definitely going to want to be using once you have them unlocked. Not to mention, the Ancient Magic's questline, Desert Treasure, is a requirement to actually complete the Ancient Curses questline, the Temple at Sentiston. And this is going to be the next questline that you are going to want to complete to unlock the Ancient Curses. Ancient Curses is a upgrade to your prayer book, as it does give you completely different prayers, which you'll be using all the way into the end game, as you will not have any reason to switch back to the normal prayer book unless you were maybe doing something very specific in game. Ancient Curses does provide you with deflect curses, meaning that you can actually return some damage that you take rather than just protecting you from that damage as well. Also, it does give you Soul Split, which will heal back a certain amount of damage that you deal to a target, meaning you can actually do a lot of bosses without any food this way. It reduces the amount of food you use in a lot of situations, whether you are prayer flicking from this to a protection curse, or whether you are just camping this, and it can be incredibly useful on your journey of doing PVM. Not to mention that you do get the best damage boosting curses in this prayer book as well. At level 95 you will unlock Turmoil curses, which is Turmoil, Anguish and Torment. These are level 95 curses that will increase your damage by a hell of a lot. They are incredibly useful, and they are absolutely a great goal for every PVMer to work towards, as you will be using them everywhere you go until you unlock the next tier of tier 99 curses. The tier 99 curses are called Malevolence, Desolation and Affliction, and you unlock these by reading one of the codexes dropped by Nex, Angel of Death. These are incredibly expensive, however they do offer you the best damage boosting curse that you can possibly get in the game as of this video being made. These are absolutely worth the price that they come as, and eventually you will be wanting to pick these up. So unlocking the Ancient Curses through the Temple at Sentiston is going to be something that is valuable and worthwhile doing, even though there is a hell of a lot of quest requirements beforehand and a lot of time will be invested into unlocking this. You will be using these everywhere you go, whether it is Slayer, whether it is even skilling at some point. If you unlock some more curses through other quests, you'll be using them on this curse book as well, and you'll be using them at all the bosses in the future as well. So it is definitely worth unlocking this quest line. Of course, working towards these quests are going to provide your character with a pretty decent amount of skills, as there are going to be skill requirements to actually complete a lot of these quests. That being said, there are going to be some specific skills that you will want to be leveling up on your account to unlock certain things that are going to help you out a hell of a lot as a PVMer. For example, you are going to want at least 96 herb lore, working your way all the way up to at least 106 herb lore eventually, so you can unlock the different overload variants. At 96 you get the standard overload, which is incredibly useful and definitely worth working towards to begin with, and then eventually the elder overload will provide you with more stats boosts, and it is definitely something that you're going to want to work towards towards as well eventually as you work through to harder bosses. The overload will basically boost your stats and keep your stats boosted for you, refreshing them every now and then. This allows you to use Cyrodiil and brews as food, meaning you can get a hell of a lot more healing out of inventory space, and you can also combo eat food, meaning you can eat food and drink a Cyrodiil and brew dose at the same time, meaning you can get a big boost of healing all in one tick. As well as this, of course, overloads giving you the bonus stats, increase your accuracy, increase your strength, increase your defense, and they're just overall a incredibly useful potion to have access to. I should also mention as well that getting 106 herb lore for the Elder Overload is also going to unlock a hell of a lot of other potions you can make at this point, including adrenaline potions, which I'll be mentioning a little bit later on as well. Alongside herb lore, you are also going to want to be getting yourself 96 summoning for the Ripper Demon. The Ripper Demon is incredibly useful and it will help out so freaking much in PVM, but not to mention you will also unlock a yak at the exact same time. The Ripper Demon is a DPS familiar, which will be able to help you get through bosses quicker by dealing a hell of a lot of damage, meaning it helps you out on getting the boss killed. A pack yak is going to be able to carry a lot of food for you. I believe it can carry 30 inventory spaces, meaning you can take 30 more pieces of food with you to a boss encounter. This is going to be incredibly useful for learners, as if you need extra food while you're learning a boss and dealing with mechanics, you can chuck all that food in the yak and then you can kind of eat your way through mechanics while you figure out how they work. This can be quite costly at some times, but it is definitely something that is going to help you out a lot on learning mechanics and dealing with bosses and not feeling like you're being punished as much as if you didn't have access to one. 96 summoning, 96 to 106 herb lore, and 95 prayer are going to be expensive to achieve. They're going to take a lot of time to work towards, and they are going to feel like you are putting a lot of effort and money into unlocking these levels, but they are absolutely worth doing, and they are absolutely skills that you are going to want to unlock if you are planning to be a PVMer in the end game of RuneScape 3. They are a very important part of it, and I would recommend that anybody who does want to work towards PVM unlocks all of these and eventually even higher levels of these at some point. The last few levels that you're going to want to have on your account or available to yourself before you get into PVM, or while you are getting into PVM even, is going to be Invention unlocked. Having Invention unlocked means you have to have 80 in crafting, smithing, and divination, as these are required to even access the skill for Invention. Invention will provide you with perks for your gear, and it will increase a lot of different things in terms of damage and accuracy and even defense bonuses that you will absolutely want to have, as they benefit you way too much to ignore. Invention is incredibly useful even at a budget side, so if getting access to this is going to be way too important, and you definitely want to do this. Even if you just get yourself some budget perks, you will notice Invention will provide you with perks for your gear, and it will increase a lot of different things in terms of damage and accuracy and even defense bonuses that you will absolutely want to have, as they benefit you way too much to ignore. Invention is incredibly useful even at a budget side, so if getting access to this is going to be way too important, and you definitely want to do this. Even if you just get yourself some budget perks, you will notice
Dragonmatics for when you unlock a new qualification level 20, Everlight at 42, Stormguard Citadel at 70, and lastly Warforge at level 76. But enough of the overview. Let's get specific on how to get you to level 99 as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Number 1, always do the highest plot you can, minus a couple higher end ones towards 99 and beyond, and we'll cover those. Number 2, always survey the plot and see how many artifacts are on the plot, and then see how many artifacts are needed for collections. Number 3, when you unlock a new qualification, talk to the Guildmaster for rewards. And one that I have not put down here, but one I would like to add is number 4. When you hit level 40, you will unlock researchers, and as soon as they come back from their missions, send them back out again because they give you more experience and also you need a certain amount of hours to hit certain qualifications. Next, let's talk about some useful items to help optimize those gains. I recommend buying some Water Fiend familiars straight away from the Grand Exchange. They are fairly cheap at the moment at about 150k per pouch. The Water Fiend has a 5% chance to double material gain and artifacts gained. If you can't buy it, you can begin making them at 68 Archaeology. Also, the auto screener can be unlocked at level 70 Archaeology and when you complete the associate qualifications, and that's a very good idea to have as it automatically screens the soil you get while excavating and runs on divine charges, nothing else, and doesn't degrade. You'll also want to get Matic upgrades every 10 levels as you progress, up to the Time and Space Matic at level 99, which you will need 2 Dragon Matics for, so that can be a bit expensive if you're not doing the big game hunter and getting them yourself. You can also smith the smithable variants at levels 60, 70, 80, and 90, but they cannot be augmented. Make sure you're buying the precision upgrades too at the Archaeology Guild when you unlock them with qualifications. Lastly, the Skilling and Elite Skilling outfit provides a very nice experience boost, and the later giving unlimited teleports to dig sites and collectors. Definitely worth it. Now let's begin. From level 1 to 5, you'll do the Varrock dig site tutorial, and once you hit level 5, you'll be teleported to the Kara Depth. At level 24 until 2042, you should have received a fool of myself if I do that, so. We'll unlock researchers, which you can send out on research missions, similar to player-owned ports. You can also start studying certain objects around dig sites for special research missions, which will yield higher experience and certain objects and artifacts upon completion. Alright, moving on. At level 42, you will unlock the Everlight dig site, so you will dig at the Protomoi remains until level 45. At level 45, you will return to the Infernal Source and dig at the Disc Dungeon Debris until level 47. At level 47, if you have the prison door unlocked, or if not, now is the time to go back and unlock it. Like I said earlier, just dig outside the prison door until you receive 4 custodian journal pages. You will dig at the Presidio remains at Kara Depth. So you will dig at the Protomoi remains until level 45. At level 45, you will return to the Infernal Source and dig at the Disc Dungeon Debris until level 47. At level 47, if you have the prison door unlocked, or if not, now is the time to go back and unlock it. Like I said earlier, just dig outside the prison door until you receive 4 custodian journal pages. You will dig at the Presidio remains at Kara Depth.
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about...
You might think you know Bespoke Post. They have leveled up big time. The thing is, it's free and you're never under any obligation to buy anything. Bespoke Post presents you with quality gear from small brands that you're gonna love at a great price. Every month you'll get a personalized cart filled with recommendations based on your interests. So no more sorting through junk to find the good stuff. Don't like what's in your shipment? Just swap it out. And if you're not feeling it this month, skip it and you won't pay a dime. It's totally worth it because you have complete control.
RuneScape 3 has quite a lot of things that you might want to spend money on in this game. There is so many different items, there is so many different sort of paths you can take, and money comes and goes very quickly. So I figured I would make a video talking about worthwhile investments for pretty much everybody that almost every player will benefit from at some point in their adventure. So the things in here are going to go from low level players towards higher end players, but probably not the absolute end game people. But either way, if you're interested, stick around, leave a like if you enjoy and if you find something new in here, and if it does help you out whatsoever. Do subscribe to the channel if you are new. Other than that, let's go. So these are not going to be in any specific order, not from like earliest things that you should get towards like the latest things. It's just going to be things that will be worth your time getting, and you'll have to just decide yourself whether it's time to get this now or whether it's time to wait a little bit and get a different thing instead. Okay, so that being said, the first thing that I'm going to start with is the Double Surge Codex. You can buy this on the Grand Exchange for around about 75 million gold coins at the moment of making this video was the very last trade. That being said, looking back from the past month, the average price does seem to be around about 65 mil. So I would say anywhere in between those numbers would probably be a good guess. Now, the Double Surge Codex does exactly what you probably imagine it does already, if you don't already know. It gives you another surge so you can do a double surge. Obviously in it, of course that's what it does. Double surge, you know. Okay, we just want to cover... I just wanted to cover everything, okay? So, this can be incredibly useful from early game all the way to end game, and even though it is quite expensive, you would expect this to 100% be a later game upgrade. That being said, if you are someone who really wants to get around doing quests and stuff a lot quicker, this may have a use earlier on for you as well. But keep in mind, there is probably better things you could spend 75 mil on as a low level player. But like I say, this is really useful for getting you around the game. So if you're doing quests, if you're doing anything like clues, if you're even just doing PVM, Double Surge is incredibly useful, and it will save you a lot of time when you are traveling from place to place, but it will also be incredibly useful in PVM as well. So the earlier you get it, the more use you're going to get out of it for quests and for clue scrolls and anything along those sort of lines. However, later on in the game as well, it's going to still hold its value. It's still going to be incredibly useful for PVM in certain situations. Having Double Surge, like elite dungeons for example, getting through them a lot quicker, or even just other places like Telos. If you used your surge a little bit too soon and you know that you need to do the uppercut soon, having that second charge of surge is incredibly useful. Now, this will not give you a double escape, as they are completely different. You will have to buy a double escape codex. So if you do use escape, when you do have the double surge, it will put surge on cooldown without giving you the second charge. So you could decide whether you want to get both of these. Personally, I find double surge to be plenty and not really need the double escape, but I'm sure it will have its uses in some places as well. So like I say, this would be completely down to you whether you think getting this early on will be absolutely worth your investment on saving you time on quests and traveling around the map, or whether you just want to wait until later on to get it while you're doing PVM, as like I say, incredibly useful. So that was our first one. Double Surge Codex, definitely something worth investing into. Next up is the Scare Tactics Ability Codex. There's going to be a few ability codexes in this list, but not all, okay? So don't worry if you're just thinking, is he just going to tell us that all the ability codexes are worth buying? Because while most of them are, I'm talking about the specific ones that aren't necessarily like Greater Ricochet or Greater Chain. Scare Tactics Ability is something I get asked a hell of a lot on stream. What is that ability you have, Keybound to W? The one that looks like a mask. That's Scare Tactics, and it's really useful. The answer that I normally give is it's really useful in places like Elite Dungeons, because what it does is it will actually push back the target that you use it on, and it's really useful for clustering up like groups of monsters into one big pile. And that's exactly what it does. It will give you different abilities for your stuns on each ability style of magic and range. So for example, on magic, your ability Impact and Deep Impact will be replaced with Shock and Horror. The difference between these abilities from the other ones is that it will push back the target targets by 1 tile, but it only works on small targets. It doesn't work on the other ones. It only works on smaller ones. You can't push like a big boss, for example. It literally just does like the same things. There's no stun time lost in this, so don't worry if you want to replace these all together. It does not like lose any stun time. It literally just adds the actual knockback bit. These abilities are not extra abilities. They will share the cooldown with those, so you can't just add them all to your bar and have 4 stuns. They will share the cooldown, so you can't use impact and then use shock straight away, as they will both be on cooldown. But like I say, these are incredibly useful, and there's some tricks you can do with these. For example, if you have chin chompers on and you use the one on range, it will push everything that's hit by the chin chompers back together, so you can actually push back a big group of monsters. You can also push smaller bosses like Taraket and Elite Dungeon 3 over to a different square, meaning he will phase a different way first. So you can make him spawn the big corpse carrier in ED3 first, rather than just spawning the normal way. So there is some uses for this, and it can be really useful. Like I say, in Elite Dungeons, it's probably the biggest place that I've noticed it, but it can also have some uses at places like Legions, as you can apply a bleed, use shock, and push that boss back by 1 square, meaning it does walk the bleed when you normally would not be able to do this to the boss. So these abilities can be incredibly useful, but they are pretty niche and they aren't really like the most important thing in the game. But for the price of around about 5 million GP at the moment, which is hella expensive compared to what they used to be when I bought it, but for 5 mil, I would say unlocking this ability is something worth doing. So the third thing that I believe is going to be worth it for investment from every player pretty much, like I can't see anybody not finding this useful and worth the time, is going to be the mobile perk from Invention. Invention allows you to add perks to your armor, your weapons, and it's incredibly useful. For those of you that are just getting into the game and aren't exactly sure how it works, what you want to do is use different materials into gizmos, and when you put those materials in, you will get different perks out. The mobile perk specifically reduces the cooldown of Surge, Escape, Bladed Dive, and Barge. This is incredibly useful in a lot of situations, as of course, one, if you have double Surge, the cooldown of that is reduced for both of those charges, and it allows you to zip around the map a lot faster, but also it's going to have use in PVM, as using Surge or Bladed Dive in PVM is incredibly useful, and getting around different arenas and dodging mechanics with Bladed Dive or Surge as well is definitely something you can do. So having them off cooldown a lot more often is incredibly useful. The main thing you're going to get out of this though is just being able to use Surge a lot more often, use Bladed Dive more often, and just basically that's the main thing. You'll be able to travel around much quicker, and using this again while you're doing questing and stuff, I will specifically make sure I have my mobile perk active on myself if I'm doing any quests, because it just saves the time. Traveling quicker, using Surge more often, honestly, it's definitely worth having. So usually if you're going to get this perk, you will sort of tie it in with another perk as well. So you'll try and get something like Biting 4, for example, and then you'll have the mobile perk as an extra with that. So that is what I've done with most of mine. However, if you're not a PVMer, you don't do PVM whatsoever, you can probably just grab this perk by itself, which is pretty cheap, and chuck it on anything like an Enhanced Excalibur or something like that, so that when you do Bladed Dive, you've got it on that, or you can just keep it equipped and it's nice and cheap. So 100% worth getting this, because mobile perk, while all it does is reduce the cooldown of those abilities are incredibly useful and valuable to have the cooldowns reduced. This next one, not so convenient for everybody, like every single person, but a lot of people. Most people in this game will get into PVM at some point. They will try and learn bosses. They will have some sort of situation where even if you're not focusing on PVM, maybe you want to go for any sort of achievements, make sure you've got all the achievements whatsoever, and you may want to get the Reaper sort of challenge. So having a Ring of Death is the next item we're going to talk about, is incredibly useful, because it's going to reduce your death costs while learning PVM by a hell of a lot. Honestly, it really will, because the death costs in this game at the moment, as of making this video, can get incredibly high. If you're PVMing with like best in slot gear, you can expect death costs of up to around about 11 to 12 mil, going even higher depending on how many switches you bring. For the average PVMer, like high-end top tier PVMer, top tier gear, not top tier skill, but top tier gear PVMer, you're looking around about 11 mil. When you start getting into the fact of you're chasing like these personal records and stuff, and you're bringing ridiculous amount of switches to save a couple of seconds just so you can chase like huge personal records, you end up pushing yourself up to stupid numbers like 15, 20 mil per death, because you don't want to use a Ring of Death at that point. However, if you are someone learning, a Ring of Death is 100% worth bringing, because no matter how many like switches, how much gear you have with you or whatever, your death cost will always be the same depending on the price of an Onyx. It will be the certain amount of charge per Onyx on the ring. So you do end up saving a lot of money, especially as learners. So People who are learning and getting into PVM, I would 100% suggest investing some money into a Ring of Death if your death costs are higher than the actual per death cost that this has. Find out the exact cost of death while wearing the Ring of Death. You can just go to the Ring of Death wiki page and it will tell you. For example, at the moment, it is around about 327k per death. Now, when you think about the fact that you may be learning Raksha and your death costs are 5 to 10 mil maybe, if you're a learner, you want to be saving that 4.7 mil every time you die, because that's a lot of money saved. Yes, you have to charge this with a Onyx, but you know what? This is pretty cheap in comparison. Trust me, worth getting if you're learning PVM, worth getting if you're just someone chasing the achievements, for example, just getting the Reaper tasks done. So honestly, this is a good thing to use until you get to a point where you're incredibly comfortable at certain bosses and you no longer feel like you need it. Okay, moving on to the next thing is going to be Grace of the Elves. This is an expensive item. It's pretty cheap in comparison. Trust me, worth getting if you're learning PVM, worth getting if you're just someone chasing the achievements, for example, just getting the Reaper tasks done. So honestly, item to get, but incredibly useful for anyone who's going to be doing any skilling, which even PVMers are going to need to do skilling at some point, because you're going to probably want to work towards max, as it can give you great perks for your PVM experiences, and this is going to be something that can make you a ton of money if you get lucky, but also if not, it does kind of pay for itself and it gives you better supplies along the way. Not to mention the fact that it can store up to 500, I believe, porters in it, so it will actually be able to send items to the bank that you gather as well, and give you some great teleports for the max garden portals that you can direct to the Invention Guild or to the Deep Sea Hub or many other places like Fairy Ring and all that sort of stuff. So the Grace of the Elves is around about 85 million GP at the moment, so it's probably not going to be something that you pick up like stupidly early on, right? But if you are someone who is going to be investing a lot of time into skilling, maybe you're going for 120s, maybe you're going for 200 mils, but in all honesty, even for people going for 99s, if you can get your hands on a Grace of the Elves early, you're going to be able to pay yourself back with it, and it gives you so many benefits like I mentioned before. The way this works and the way it pays itself back is, as you are skilling, you will get random Seren spirits appear nearby. Once you click on those, it will automatically deposit an item into your bank, and it's random from the rare drop table. Because it has access to the rare drop table, if you are wearing a Look of the Dwarves with the tier 4 look when this happens, you can actually get yourself the Hazelmere's Signet Ring. For those of you that don't know what this item is, it is an item that can have the very small chance of dropping a double drop when you get a drop some other places. I said that terribly. It can double a drop that you get. You want to work towards max, as it can give you great perks for your Ace of...
Twisted Tea is a refreshing, hard iced tea made with real brewed tea. Keep it twisted.
This game, you're not ready.
The Elves. This is an expensive item to get, but incredibly useful for anyone who's going to be doing any skilling, which even PVMers are going to need to do skilling at some point, because you're going to probably want to work towards max, as it can give you great perks for your PVM experiences, and this is going to be something that can make you a ton of money if you get lucky, but also if not, it does kind of pay for itself and it gives you better supplies along the way. Not to mention the fact that it can store up to 500, I believe, porters in it, so it will actually be able to send items to the bank that you gather as well, and give you some great teleports for the max garden portals that you can direct to the Invention Guild or to the Deep Sea Hub or many other places like Fairy Ring and all that sort of stuff. So the Grace of the Elves is around about 85 million GP at the moment, so it's probably not going to be something that you pick up like stupidly early on, right? But if you are someone who is going to be investing a lot of time into skilling, maybe you're going for 120s, maybe you're going for 200 mils, but in all honesty, even for people going for 99s, if you can get your hands on a Grace of the Elves early, you're going to be able to pay yourself back with it, and it gives you so many benefits like I mentioned before. The way this works and the way it pays itself back is, as you are skilling, you will get random Seren spirits appear nearby. Once you click on those, it will automatically deposit an item into your bank, and it's random from the rare drop table. Because it has access to the rare drop table, if you are wearing a Look of the Dwarves with the tier 4 look when this happens, you can actually get yourself the Hazelmere's Signet Ring. For those of you that don't know what this item is, it is an item that can have the very small chance of dropping a double drop when you get a drop some other places. I said that terribly. It can double a drop that you get on a very small percentage chance, but this is incredibly rare, and is valued at around about 3.2 to 3.5 billion GP on the previous trades in the last few days. So as you can imagine, if you get one of these, one, it pays off the Grace of the Elves many times, but so it makes you a very rich person. Don't expect to always get one of these though. They are rare. They are incredibly rare. Not many people do get them from the Grace of the Elves, but they are probably like common enough to the point where you're sort of thinking like, you know, it's definitely worth getting this. But not to mention the fact that you're going to get the drops from the Grace of the Elves as well, the Seren Spirits. The drops from that will add up, and they will end up being more than the money you spend, assuming you do get this thing like not 10 minutes before you're going to max, for example. As long as you get this thing early on, it's definitely going to pay itself back value wise, even without the rare drop. But also consider the fact that it does allow you to store up to 500 porters in it as well. This thing is hella useful in so many skills on making it a lot more AFK. It makes archaeology ridiculously AFK. Like without this thing, I bought this for archaeology. I bought this and probably lost money on it because I bought it to go from level 85 to 99 archaeology. That's all I did with mine because I just didn't get it any time earlier on. I was already maxed like before I realized it was good. But because of the AFK, like for archaeology, I bought this. It was worth it just to me, just from that. So for anyone else who's going to be getting this earlier on, going towards max or getting any skilling done whatsoever, going for those high XP rates or anything like that, this can be incredibly useful, and I would suggest that this is a good investment for most players. Guys, I promise this video isn't going to go on too much longer. We have 2 more things I want to cover in this video, and then we'll just crack on and we'll get to the outro and we'll end it, and you guys can be like, okay, in it. That's enough for today. We'll maybe make another one of these. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in hearing another one. Anyway, this one is going to be Reaper's Gifts. The Reaper's Gifts are an item that you buy from the traveling merchant, and they will award you with Reaper points. Now, when you buy these, it kind of feels like you're just throwing money away. And a lot of people I know don't buy these because they're like, man, these are 1.25 mil each. 1.25 mil for 20 Reaper points? That doesn't sound a lot. Well, you're wrong. Trust me. These are... These are worth it if you have the spare money around. In fact, no, these are worth it anyway. Buying one of these bottles will usually give you around about 4 mil profit, depending on the price of a Hydrix, but at the moment, about 4 mil profit per buying one of these bottles if you do end up trading in the Reaper points for an uncut Hydrix. So you get a lot of money out of these. They're definitely worth it. What they will do is allow you to save up your Reaper points quicker, and then once you've got the Reaper points you need for a Hydrix, go to death, buy yourself your Hydrix, sell the Hydrix if that's what you want, or make whatever amulet or any jewelry you want out of it. And trust me, these are incredibly good profit, and you definitely want to pick them up when you can. Whenever you see the traveling merchant having these, you want to get there, you want to join one of the friends chats or whatever that tells where the world is for these, and you want to be picking these up. They are definitely worth the money investment, and I would suggest that you keep investing in them because technically they're free money, and who doesn't like free money? I know I do, so you definitely pick these free money bottles up. Next up, I'm going to be talking about, guess what? Another ability codex. Damn, these are definitely worth it though, so I promise guys, if you haven't already got these, you're going to want to get them at some point. Probably when you start getting into PVM, however, they do have more use earlier on as well, which I will mention because I like to talk about absolutely everything it seems. So, the codex I'm talking about is Corruption Shot or Corruption Blast. It is the Mazcab ability codex that you buy, which is from raids. You can buy it from the Grand Exchange for around about 58 million GP at the moment. Damn, they've gone up from what I remember. But they are definitely worth the money for Corruption Shot and Corruption Blast, as they are an extra bleed ability, and these are incredibly useful. So, what these do is it will apply a bleed to a single target to begin with, but then it will spread across to all nearby targets and nearby enemies, and it will do a bleed damage over time, which slowly reduces in damage, but it starts off pretty damn high. As you guys can probably work out, these are incredibly useful for killing off groups of mobs, but not only that, they are still worth using on single targets as well, as it will do more damage than most basic abilities will, bringing them to one of the best abilities that you can get for basics. So unlocking this will absolutely increase your DPS. It will also be incredibly useful for a lower level player if you have the spare money wanting to level in places like ED3 or in the Abyss, because it will apply a bleed effect to everything in the area, killing them off a lot quicker, meaning you will level up quicker, and of course that's a good thing, right? PVM, however, they do have more use earlier on as well, which I will mention because I like to talk about absolutely everything. It's increase your DPS. It will also be incredibly useful for a lower level player if you have the spare money wanting to level in places like ED3 or in the Abyss, because it will apply a bleed effect to everything in the area, killing them off a lot quicker, meaning you will level up quicker, and of course that's a good thing, right? Seems so. The codex that I'm talking about is Corruption Shot or Corruption Blast. It is the Mazcab ability codex that you buy, which is from raids. You can buy it from the Grand Exchange for around about 58 million GP at the moment. Damn, they've gone up. They've gone up from what I remember. But they are definitely worth the money for Corruption Shot and Corruption Blast, as they are an extra bleed ability, and these are incredibly useful. So what these do is it will apply a bleed to a single target to begin with, but then it will spread across to all nearby targets and nearby enemies, and it will do a bleed damage over time, which slowly reduces in damage, but it starts off pretty damn high. As you guys can probably work out, these are incredibly useful for killing off groups of mobs, but not only that, they are still worth using on single targets as well, as it will do more damage than most basic abilities will, bringing them to one of the best abilities that you can get for basics. So unlocking this will absolutely increase your DPS. It will also be incredibly useful for a lower level player if you have the spare money wanting to level in places like ED3 or in the Abyss, because it will apply a bleed effect to everything in the area, killing them off a lot quicker, meaning you will level up quicker, and of course that's a good thing, right? That's worth it. So if you have the money spare and you haven't got this, I would suggest, yes, looking at investing into one of these when you think the time is right, because every PVMer, every person who wants to level anywhere whatsoever that is useful.
Oh, why aren't they texting me back? Are they mad at me? Do they not like me anymore? I'm scared to ask for reassurance and fear that
to kill anything quicker is going to be getting some benefit out of this. Honestly, these are abilities you'll be using forever. They're not going to get just chucked off to the side and not used. Also, it is worth mentioning that bleeds actually do better healing when you are using Soul Split, and if you're using an Eldritch Crossbow, it is actually one of the better abilities to use with that too, using the Split Soul special attack. So these abilities are 100% worth getting in so many different ways. So absolutely, if you don't have these, maybe you should consider getting one. Okay, one more thing, the last thing, and this is going to be mainly for earlier on players, but yeah, let's say earlier on players, but kind of all players either way, because these are incredibly useful, incredibly time-saving, and at the moment, incredibly cheap. Silverhawk Feathers. Now, every single player gets Silverhawk boots. You just have to go into your oddment store and claim them for free. You can do this by clicking your currency pouch, clicking on oddments, and then claiming your Silverhawk Feathers for absolutely free. Now, once you've got those, you can buy Silverhawk Feathers from the oddment store. You can do that, but I wouldn't recommend it. Oddments kind of have more value than that at this point, because the feathers are ridiculously cheap on the Grand Exchange at the moment, and what these feathers do is if you charge your boots with them and wear those boots while you are running around, or every time you use an ultimate or other specific things in game, you will gain agility experience per charge. Now, it can be quite expensive to train your agility just this way, but the way that feathers have dropped, it is ridiculously worth it. It is absolutely worth spending a bit of money on these feathers, especially if you're looking to get your agility up for specific things, or you know, you want to max at some point. Most PVMers even are still going to want to max to get that max cape perks and stuff, and yeah, you can do your agility ridiculously easy with this. By the time you come to actually needing to do agility, you will look down and you'll be like, hey, this is pretty much nearly done. You can get 99 agility purely from these feathers using your Silverhawk boots, charging it with the feathers, and doing other skills in the game. Trust me, this is absolutely worth it, and I would suggest that early level players even spend a little bit of extra cash that they have, just the spare money they've got laying around from upgrades and other stuff they're focusing on. Dump it into some feathers, make sure your boots are charged up, and wear these any chance you get when you're not needing to wear something else, because training your agility with very little effort, almost no effort whatsoever, there is definitely worth doing. That being said, there's going to be people in the comments saying, but I like agility in it. I enjoy agility. You guys, one, are crazy, but two, fair enough, don't do them. Don't use them then. But I mean, if you like agility, you probably want better agility experience, and using these while even running agility courses, if you do enjoy that clicking craziness, then you know what, they're still worth wearing at those places too, as it will increase the amount of experience per hour that you get. Unless you like agility to the point where even though you hit 200 mil, you'll keep doing it. In that case, I don't know what to suggest for you guys. You are still crazy, and I wish you all the best at the agility courses. Oh no, I hope no one gets offended by that. Does anyone actually really enjoy agility to the point where they keep doing it after 200 mil? If there is somebody, let me know in the comments, because I want to meet them. I want to know what's going on. Let me know. Alright guys, that brings us to the end of this video, and I'm not going to make this outro ridiculously long, because you know what, the video is pretty long itself. So other than that, I hope that you found some use in this video. If you did, you know what to do. There's a like button, give it a click, subscribe to the channel. Anyone actually really enjoy agility to the point where they keep...
Yeah, and just say, oh my god, again, it's too easy. No way. No way.
How's it going, guys, and welcome to a video that will have 50 PVM related tips and tricks. I hope that everybody finds something in this video that is helpful to them, and hopefully this can improve your gameplay quite a bit in any way whatsoever. I will not be wasting long on the intro, as of course this is going to be a very long video, so hopefully you guys enjoy. Leave a like if you do, subscribe to the channel if you are new, comment down below any extra tips that you may be able to think of that I did not include here. There will be timestamps in the description separating the tips and tricks up from things like the settings tips, magic tips, range tips, and general tips, and whatever else ends up getting into the video. So other than that, let's get started. A lot of this is likely going to be recorded here by the dummies in Wars Retreat, if possible. Otherwise, a lot of this is likely going to be recorded here by the dummies in Wars Retreat, if possible. Otherwise, we're going to start off with the settings tips. So let's get going. Alright, so our first tip for settings is going to be that you can display additional action bars if you haven't already got them active. Now this is useful because you can slot more abilities, more items, and more food. To do this, go to settings, go down to gameplay, and then combat and action bar, and then action bar. In here you just want to go to where it says display additional action bars and make sure you set these as what you need them to be. If you go through these and set them through to the action bars that you want, you can then get more action bars, as you can see on screen now, and you can slot anything you want into these and set keybinds nice and easily. Next up, coming back into settings, of course, we are going to want to go down to controls, and then if you scroll down this list, you get towards where it says action bar. Right at the bottom of action bar, you'll have separate options to keybind things that are really useful. For example, you can have auto retaliate, quick prayer, special attack, your familiar special attack, and target cycling all in here, along with area loot and action button being things like the button from Raksha and Karapak, anything else that's on your screen that you may need to use. You can keybind these without slotting them onto your action bar, so you can save yourself some slots on here, but also it just means that you've got nice quick access to all of these things in case you need them in the future. Next up, we have action bar binding. Now what this will do is allow you to switch between your action bars when you equip different types of weapons. At the moment you can see that my action bar is set to number 3, which is my magic action bar. If I change to melee weapons, it automatically switches to number 1, giving me all of my melee abilities without me needing to change this here or press the numbers like shift and number 1 or whatever it is. So if I change back to magic now, it will automatically change back to magic. To do this, go to settings, go down to gameplay, combat and action bar binding, and then once you're on here, you just want to pick action bar binding setup 1. The setup ones aren't like specific to action bar number 1. You have to actually set your preset in here. So what you would do is pick the weapon style. So for my number 3, for example, will be any magic style, and then you've got the action bar that's going to change, which is the main action bar for me, and then also you've got your action bar preset, which is action bar preset number 3. So you want to change that to whatever it wants to be normally, and then of course once you save that, when you change between the weapons, you'll get this result. Next up is going to be manual spellcasting. This is really important if you want to use magic and 4-tick auto attack, or it's just useful in a lot of scenarios where you want to maybe use a different auto cast for different reasons, which we'll talk about in just a second. So to do this, you want to go to settings, then you want to go down to combat and action bar underneath the gameplay tab, go to action bar, and then make sure manual spellcasting is ticked right here. Once that is done, it will allow you to do things like this, where you can use a keybind for different spells and it won't change your auto cast ability. So my auto cast is set to Insight Fear. If I click on that, you will see that's what I'm casting. But if I use a keybind, I can use Blood Barrage, or I can use Ice Barrage whenever I want to, and I can cycle between those at whatever I want to do. It's really useful for being able to use like 4-tick at the right time, freeze any monsters and stuff in elite dungeons, all that sort of good stuff. So it's very useful to know about, especially if you are someone who does main magic quite a lot. The next useful thing is going to be the ability cooldown timer. You can display those nice and easily in the settings, and what it will do is allow you to know exactly when another ability is going to be ready again. So if I use Dragon Breath now, you can see a little number next to it in the top right corner telling me when that's available again. Yes, you have the normal like shadowed little clock sort of thing on there to show you, but having an actual exact number can be very useful, especially for things like Sunshine. To turn this on, you want to go into settings, of course, go down to action bar underneath the combat and action bar tab, and then just make sure the very first option is ticked that says toggle ability cooldown timer. This is very useful, like I say, making sure you can use your abilities at the right time, and having that actual number and the information there, especially for thresholds and ultimates, I find very useful. Next up, we can avoid ourselves from accidentally misclicking on our Beast of Burden or any familiar for that matter and interacting with that while we are PVMing. Sometimes this can be deadly, especially at places like a Raxol with the swipe and stuff, so this is quite important to know about. Now, what you can do is go to settings, of course, come down into the combat and action bar tab, and then go to the choose option menu. In the choose option menu, you want to have the hide familiar options available. If you don't have this ticked, you'll know that you can interact with your Ripper Demon. You can accidentally misclick on that in fights when you're trying to run away, and rather than running, your character will just stand there and talk to your Ripper Demon or your Yak or whatever it is you've got. So have that ticked, and it'll stop that, and it'll allow you to click through that familiar, and your character will just keep moving. Next up, I quite often get people asking me, how can you zoom out so far? Because mine's locked way closer than that. What you want to do this, which is very useful for certain bosses so you can see everything that's going on, is go into settings, go down to camera, and then in camera, you want to change this to either Freedom or Freedom Classic. If you have it on Classic or Modern, what it will do is it will lock the amount of distance you can actually go away from, and it'll stop about here. But with the actual other options, you can zoom out much further, making it so much easier to see certain things like Glacier, and just get some really nice views pretty much. But this is very useful in a lot of situations. The next tip is to make sure that you have Accept Aid enabled. This is really useful in some PVM situations, especially for learners, as sometimes people will take things like Intercept, or they will take spells that like Heal Other, allowing them to protect you in certain situations. So what this means is, for example, if I cast Intercept on Salty Llama at the moment, any damage that he takes will now go to me instead, meaning for 10 seconds I can make sure he does not die. To do this, you want to go into Settings, go down to Gameplay, Chat and Social, Accept Aid, and then everything in here can be set to everybody, but just have the Teleport Other spells set to nobody. This way you can't get teleported to the wilderness, things like that, but everything else like Lunar spells and stuff is absolutely welcome, and that's absolutely fine, right? You can get saved and healed in fights. So keep an eye out for the Intercept, because this is pretty much what it'll look like. When he takes damage, I'll take the damage instead, and I can deal with that by using things like Reflect and whatnot, so yeah. The next thing isn't necessarily something you have.
Introducing Milo's Rewards, the new way to unlock savings from the palm of your hand. With every purchase, all loyalty members earn points toward Milo's money. Plus, you get free gifts and free shipping. The all-new Milo's Rewards program is here. Download the app to join, earn, and save today.
Damage instead, and I can deal with that by using things like Reflect and whatnot, so yeah. The next thing isn't necessarily something you have to do in settings to make it work, but basically you can control your camera and move it around without WS A and D by using the middle mouse button, the scroll wheel, by clicking it in and dragging around. It gives you a nice smooth control of where your camera is going, and it is really useful to be able to know about, because if you want to rebind WS A and D, which are really comfortable keybinds, you can now do that, and you can use that for full manual or any special abilities, whatever you want to use it for, so it's quite useful to know this. I quite often get people asking how there is so many keybinds available to myself and how I managed to go through it all, but if you use Shift and Alt and Control, you can actually set a hell of a lot more different keybinds than if you didn't use these. So if you want to set a keybind to something else, you can literally right click it, press Customize Keybind, and then you can set in here what it by pressing the keys that you want it to be. But you can use Alt and 6, meaning you can have a second keybind for number 6 by using the Alt button as well. You can do this with Control, and you can do this with Shift, meaning that your 6 key, if you have one on your mouse or anything or whatever's nearby, you can have that bound to 3 different things, just modifying it with Control, Shift, and Alt. This one is going to be more useful for most people who like to AFK stuff but don't like to miss out on big drops. If you come into settings, go down to item drops and then loot beams, you can actually change the value of your loot beams to make sure that you don't miss any drops depending what boss you're on. For example, if you're AFK in Vindicta, you can set this to something like 1 million, and that way anything over the drop rate of 1 million coins on the Grand Exchange will notify you. But if you set it to something like 300k, and you go somewhere like Hellware, then you know that every time you've got a drop worth picking up over 300k, it will give you a loot beam. So you can change your loot beam however you want to do it, whenever you want to do it, and it's really useful for when you're AFKing stuff. Okay, so moving on to some magic tips. The first one that I have for you is that you can actually release Detonate once you've charged it with an auto attack and any other ability, so long as you have damage increase to your next attack. This works if you use it on a single target ability, your next hit will get 7% damage increase. However, if you use it on a hit that actually does 2 different bits of damage, the first 2 hits will be buffed. So if you use Greater Ricochet, the first 2 hits will be buffed. If you use Snapshot, both hits will be buffed. And if you use Rapid Fire, the first 2 hits will be buffed for 7% damage increase each. This is really important to know, as you will want to use this before using quite a lot of abilities during range. Next up is knowing that if you use Chinchompers on range while on Evolution of Combat, it doesn't only make AoE apply to your actual auto attacks, it still works on all of your abilities as well. This can mean that you can apply things like multiple combust to targets, it means you can apply like multiple snapshots, and you can do a hell of a lot of AoE damage just by equipping some Chinchompers while clearing out things. This can be incredibly useful for getting through elite dungeons really quickly if you're using range, as you can clear off most of the mobs very quickly. If you have Greater Ricochet, you can actually get quite a lot of advantage out of using this with certain types of bolts. If you use a Hydrix bolt switch with Greater Ricochet, you can get yourself a ton of adrenaline really quickly. As you can see, that one Ricochet gave me 33% adrenaline, but it can actually end up being quite a bit more. Also, the same applies to things like Onyx bolts as well. As long as the proc doesn't have a cooldown, you can end up getting multiple procs in one Greater Ricochet. For the people chasing personal records, using darts as your weapon overrides will actually increase your animation very slightly, meaning across the entire kill you can end up getting a slightly faster kill time. It is not huge, but it is definitely a thing. Also, the same applies to things like Onyx bolts as well. As long as RuneScape 3 has a ton of unlocks that are absolutely worth your time in getting. However, in this video I'm going to go through 10 that come to mind very quickly when I think about unlocks that I couldn't live without. This doesn't mean there are no other good unlocks, of course there are absolutely tons, but these are the ones that come to mind straight away. With that being said, I don't think there's much else to explain about the video, so I hope you do enjoy and I hope you find it useful. Do check that you are subscribed if you enjoy this sort of content, and let's go. Quick interruption before we do get started. Recently I had to make a Patreon to help keep myself full time while ad revenue and stuff was all over the place, but I've been posting some unique content over there specifically just for Patreon subscribers, and there is a fair few amount of videos over there now. I will be continuing to post more up. In fact, one is being made immediately after this video, so for anybody interested, you can support the channel, help keep me full time, and also get access to some more content purely by heading over to the link in the description and then chucking $1 over onto the Patreon to get access to all of that. You also do get yourself some Discord roles and whatnot, and your name at the end of every single video. But anyway, that's enough of that. Let's get back to the video. The very first unlock on this list is going to be good old Disruption Shield. For anybody who doesn't know what this ability is, don't worry, I've got you covered. It is going to make the next attack, whether it be melee, range, magic, or soft typeless, that hits you completely into zero. You just negate it. It is blocked. It does absolutely nothing. This is something that you unlock from Livid Farm, and it does cost 290,000 produce points, which takes quite a while. However, you can get the Livid plants from the Traveling Merchant. Now, the reason I cannot live without this anymore is because quite literally, if I didn't have this, I would have died a million times more than I have lately. This ability is a lifesaver because you can use it on tick, randomly, off cooldown. It doesn't matter if you're on global cooldown or not. You can fire this thing off whenever you need to as a really good panic button. It makes PVMing in certain places so much more easy and safer and more convenient that I would suggest to anybody to get this unlocked. I put this off for a hell of a long time before I did get it, but now that I've got it, holy crap, I could not go without it. Next up is going to be Animate Dead. Let's be honest, guys, we all know this is going to be getting nerfed soon, but Animate Dead is still going to be really good. To unlock Animate Dead, you will have to complete the quest City at Sentiston. This is going to take quite a while to do this. There's a lot of prerequisites, but it is absolutely worth it. Once you cast Animate Dead, for every piece of magic tank armor you wear, you will be getting a flat damage reduction. Now, this is changing in the way that it works, and it will be reduced from what it is now, so I'm not going to bother going over all the percentages and stuff. But basically, every time you get hit, you'll be taking less damage than you initially would have in the first place, meaning you are wearing tank gear and then getting further damage reduction on top of that. This makes you much harder to kill in PVM, and it also makes learning PVM a lot easier for players who are worried about taking that extra damage. It basically makes mechanics and damage that you take a lot less punishing. The spell lasts for 12 minutes, so you only have to cast it once every 12 minutes, and it basically just makes PVM a lot easier. That is pretty much what it is for. But yes, with the nerf incoming, it will be less useful than it is as of right now, but it is in a broken, overpowered, insanely good state right now, so in the future, it'll still be really useful to use. The next ability is the double surge ability. Surge is obviously an ability that most of you guys are going to be aware of, but if not, it is the icon of a person running, and it is going to make you teleport, fast forward, surge 10 game squares in a straight line ahead of where you are. It is super useful for dodging mechanics at bosses such as Telos, and it is even more useful for just getting around the game a lot quicker. Surge is just something that is absolutely hella useful for traveling around the world. Now, the double surge codex does exactly what it says on the tin. It gives you a double surge. This allows you to surge twice because it is doubled, and it lets you just travel around a hell of a lot quicker. It also means you can spend one of those surge cooldowns without having to worry about it going on to cooldown for a mechanic that is about to come up. For example, if Telos is about to use his uppercut ability and you want to dodge that with surge, you can still use the other one if you need to for any reason whatsoever and know that you have it available. So there is also a double escape codex, but surge is just way more convenient because it travels forwards and not backwards, and it goes a lot further as well. So that's why this one made the list and escape didn't. You can get this by buying it on the Grand Exchange. It is quite pricey, however, but I reckon it's worth every single penny. Moving on, we have the Enhanced Excalibur. Now, the Enhanced Excalibur is something you will get from completing the Merlin's Crystal Quest to get the regular Excalibur, and then you have to complete the hard and the Elite Seers Village achievements. Completing the hard versions will give you the Enhanced version, but completing the Elite versions will give you the Elite Enhanced version, which you definitely want to get. What it is going to do is, as you right-click this, you can press Activate, and it will give you a heal of 4% of your life points 10 times once per 4.2 seconds, which gives you 40% of your health points back over 42 seconds. This is just a really useful tool that PVMers take with them absolutely everywhere to get some extra food, but I can't tell you how many times I have run out of food in a boss and gone, oh crap, what am I going to do? And then I've remembered that I've not even used this yet, so I've used it, and that has got me through to the end and saved me that time of having to reset the entire kill. So this thing is definitely a lifesaver in some situations, and you can also use it for a bladed dive switch if you don't have dive unlocked like some other people who I will have no idea who that could be, not me. Next up, we have Limitless, the ability codex that costs you an absolute bomb. That being said, it is definitely worth it once you get to the point of wanting to have this as part of your ability rotations. What it's going to do is allow you to use thresholds at 15% adrenaline rather than the 50%. This means you can use this after using Sunshine and start using thresholds a lot quicker. There's many other uses for this, but I'm not going to go into depth on all of them. But once you unlock it and start using it, you will notice that it is absolutely great. Not only that, but it is going to offer you a life-saving situation in quite a lot of places. For example, if there's a mechanic coming your way that is probably going to kill you, but you don't have enough adrenaline to use a defensive, you use Limitless, and then you suddenly have the adrenaline option to use that defensive ability. This has saved me in more times than I could possibly even begin to imagine, so Limitless is definitely going to have to be on this list, because if I can't survive, then I can't live without it, right? This thing will set you back around about 1 billion GP though, and the rest probably, but as a later on upgrade, it is absolutely something you want to get. Number 6 is something that everybody can get right now, and I suggest you do because it's a time saver, and time savers are incredible and you definitely want them. And that is going to be something really, really, really easy. Lodestone quick teleports. So this is purely just a impatient and a lazy thing, I suppose, but it is absolutely so better to have quick teleports for your lodestones. Now to do this, all you want to do is get some Viswax, whether you buy it from the G, whether you make it, whether you have a stack in your bank. Grab the Viswax, activate it, and then get some quick teleports with it. It is all you need to do. So easy, but so freaking good. This cuts the teleport time of lodestone teleports in more than half. It's really, really good. It's a time saver, and especially people doing clues and stuff, you guys will already know about this, but for any newer player who just watches their character spend ages doing that teleport animation, you no longer have to do it. Just get these. Worth it. Moving on, we have the passive Ring of Vigor. Now, the Ring of Vigor, the regular one, is something you buy for dungeoneering tokens, 50,000 of them, nice and easy, and it's a really useful item. It gives you a refund on abilities whenever you use an ultimate ability or you use a special attack from a weapon. So in the past, it was ideal to have this in your inventory and then swap to it every time you would use a Sunshine or a Death Swiftness or any ultimate for that matter. If you were really good at PVM, you would then also swap to this every time you plan to use a weapon spec as well. This was a lot of switching though, and so you didn't usually see people doing that unless, like I say, they were really, really good. That being said, once you have completed the quest Extinction, you can actually have this as a passive effect, meaning that from now on, you will have this apply to all special attacks that you do and every ultimate that you cast as well, and it will be 0 effort. So this upgrade of getting the Ring of Vigor to a passive is just way too good to miss out on. You are going to be saving so much adrenaline once it's all added up that you don't even think about. A 50% weapon spec with this will be 45%. Now, of course, that's only 5% adrenaline saved, but every time you do this, every time you use a Gothic Staff, every time you use a Staff of Armadil spec, every time you use any ultimate in any sense, it's no effort, you saved adrenaline. It is a big upgrade and definitely worth your time to unlock. Number 8 is going to be not an item, not an ability, not a spell, but a skill level. 96 summoning to be exact. 96 summoning is absolutely a milestone that you want to unlock. It is way too good. At 96 summoning, you don't only get access to the Yak, which used to be the big reason why you would get this, but you get access to a Ripper Demon, a Calgarian Demon, and a Hellhound as well. Now, these summons are the only summons you're probably ever going to worry about in the game once you unlock these. However, the difference between having a Ripper Demon and not having a Ripper Demon in terms of DPS is absolutely insane. The Ripper Demon still stands to be an absolute game changer for PVMers in terms of DPS output and speeding up kills and just helping with things like DPS thresholds at bosses where they apply. The Calgarian Demon is obviously really, really good for using a Staff of Armadil, and the Hellhound is also useful in a lot of niche situations as well. I even forgot to mention the Reaver. The Reaver is just really useful in places too, but either way, at the end of the day, 96 summoning is a goal that everybody should get. It makes a huge difference, even if you only look at the Ripper Demon. Having access to that amount of damage is crazy and absolutely game changing. It's expensive to get here, it takes a lot of time, it is effort, but it is absolutely worth it. If you had to go PVMing now without any familiar whatsoever, just think about how much different that would be. It would be crazy. You would probably hate it. The Elite Dungeon Chest upgrade. This is something that, again, you can't just buy outright. You have to do some other requirements, but it is absolutely worth it. Once you complete the Curse of the Blackstone quest, you can then head to the Elite Dungeon reward shop and you can buy the upgraded chest for 750,000 dungeoneering tokens. Now, this is a lot. This is a hell of a lot of tokens, but it is definitely worth it. This is going to allow you to have access to a bank at the chest near the Elite Dungeons where all the loot would originally have gone into, and you can just bank in there whenever you want to. Not to mention, inside the Elite Dungeons, the chest that you would teleport at as well is also now a bank. As well as this, you no longer have to toggle your actual loot options on the chest before you kill anything that could double a drop. Now that you have this upgrade, any drops that go in the chest can also be doubled as well. This increases the amount of money you're going to get through the entire dungeon by a ton, and it also offers you a convenience to not have to toggle this when you got to the bosses. If you plan on doing any good amount of Elite Dungeons, I would highly recommend that you get this. However, it is also worth mentioning that completing the Curse of the Blackstone quest will also give you a damage reduction while you're inside the dungeons as well. So there's other benefits to this too. Finally, one upgrade that I actually literally cannot live without because it saves my life on the daily and probably like once an hour at least is going to be the Defense Skill Cape. For anyone who hasn't already got the Defense Skill Cape, 99 defense is the requirement. Of course, getting this acts as a sign of life just from having it equipped or having the power stored in your max cape or your adventurer cape, whatever the hell it is called at this point. But having this available is a free sign of life once every hour. This literally saves my life, so I could not live without it. But also, it's just an unlock that you just want to get it. Like it's just good. Having a sign of life with you everywhere you go is completely game changing. That you can just, if you don't have a way to deal with a mechanic, just tank it. Just let it hit you in the face. It's fine. This is not ideal. Don't do this. But if you have to, or if you mess up, you don't get punished as much. The sign of life is an absolute lifesaver, literally. So definitely grab this if you don't have it already. And if you don't have the defense skill cape and your max cape or anything like that, and you're PVMing, killing bosses, what are you doing? Get it in there. It's too good. Stop not using it. Sign of life OP, unless you don't die. I die a lot, so it's OP for me. There we go, 10 unlocks that I personally could absolutely not live without. Actually, really interesting task for you guys. In the comments, put your 10 or 5 or whatever, put your list of unlocks that you could not live without in the comments down below, and I'll be interested in seeing. Stop not using it. Sign of life OP, unless you don't die. I die a lot, so it's OP for me.
Ascension WoW is a standalone World of Warcraft private server that reimagines WoW in a brand new way. Instead of choosing a classic character select, you'll instead take up the mantle of hero. Mix and match spells and talents from any class in the game to forge your own unique champion. Challenge them against a classic Vanilla Plus setting with new original content.
It's likely that you already know that you should buy a bunch of items and level your skills to improve your RuneScape account. But what are some free unlocks that every account should get? Well, let's find out. Whenever you're ready, grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and enjoy. By free, I mean things that can be unlocked without spending money, so while oh so incredibly useful things like overloads and curses exist, they will not be a part of this list as they require you to train expensive skills. Unlocks such as the Zut Cape, which are technically free, do require supplies and a solid expensive gear setup, so I will exclude them from this list as well. The first item we're going to talk about can be obtained by quite literally just picking it up. No, I'm serious. The Infernal Puzzle Box is an item you can pick up inside the Zamorakian Undercity, an area you can get to easily from the Archaeology Campus east of Varrock. Now when you first get this item, it will not be that useful just yet. To make it amazing, you're going to need to complete the Legacy of Zamorak quest storyline, which will not take you all that long as pretty much all the quests part of the series are quickly completable. During the process of completing that storyline, you will upgrade your puzzle box tier for tier, improving the previous tier's bonuses and adding new ones. The most notable PVM related buffs of this item are increased damage and reduced damage taken from monsters inside the wilderness, reduced environmental bleeding damage inside Inferno, so this part of the Zamorak boss fight, and best of all, your adrenaline will no longer drain outside of combat. The final version of this item can be added to your tool belt to turn it into a passive after completing the quest finale called Succession. Completing that exact same storyline unlocks the second free PVM lock in this list, being the dive ability. So by completing that storyline, which doesn't have very much requirements, you would be hitting two birds with one stone. The dive ability is similar to the surge and escape abilities, except it can be aimed to launch you at a very specific tile. It's hard to quantify how useful this ability is, as it's going to not only allow you to move around the world about 20% faster compared to just moving with surge, but it's also incredibly useful for PVM. For example, moving inside a Telos beam, or flying onto a Zamorak pad. This ability can be upgraded to the Bladed Dive ability, which will allow you to deal damage against enemies you target when wielding a weapon and launching towards them, which will require 63 million Shattered Anima from the Shattered Worlds minigame. The next unlock on this list is going to be one of the most important unlocks for your account, period. And not just for PVM. It's unlocking one of RuneScape's newest areas called Fort Furinfree. This fort, which you can start building in the Zero Requirements quest, has a bunch of different buildings that you can build with the construction skill to provide you with a bunch of benefits ranging from quality of abilities called Natural Instinct, Sunshine, and Death Swiftness. All you need to do to obtain these abilities, other than having the required level to use them, is to complete a 45-minute long quest called The World Awakes. Now this quest has no requirements other than some combat gear to take down a few enemies, and with my guide, linked below, it's very easy. Sunshine and Death Swiftness are two abilities that every player should be using, as they are the baseline ability to every ability rotation in the game. Why? They increase your damage by 50% for 30 seconds. This can be increased to nearly 38 seconds with a planted feet switch, or the greater version of this ability, but both of those things cost money. Natural Instinct is an ability that doubles your adrenaline gain, which is useful for when you have excess adrenaline before a part of a fight where you know you're going to need to build up or use adrenaline quickly, like before a Zuck challenge wave. The next unlock on this list works nicely in combination with the abilities I just mentioned, as after using an ability such as Sunshine, you will start with 10% adrenaline instead of 0%. It's the Ring of Vigor, an item you can obtain by having 50,000 Dungeoneering tokens and level 62 in attack and Dungeoneering. This item is just as essential as the before mentioned abilities, as it benefits you every single time you use an ultimate ability, as you retain that 10% adrenaline. It also gives you the ability to use special attacks at 90% of their adrenaline cost. So instead of 50% adrenaline, it would require 45% adrenaline to activate the Zaros Godsword, for example. Best of all is that this item can be turned into a passive after completing the Extinction quest, which would remove the need to switch to this item every time you want to use its benefits, or free up the ring slot for a different ring such as the next ring on this list, the Asylum Surgeon's Ring. The Asylum Surgeon's Ring rocks some solid stats and has a useful adrenaline saving passive. The ring has a 10% chance to prevent adrenaline loss when using threshold abilities, and a 40% chance of saving a fourth, so 25% of a special attack's adrenaline cost. This effect works after the reduction from the passive Ring of Vigor, if owned, to work in your favor. So a special attack requiring 50% adrenaline is reduced to 45% thanks to the Ring of Vigor passive, and if the Surgeon Ring procs, it is reduced to 33.75%. The ring is unlocked by completing the Broken Home quest in under 37 minutes after the initial completion. There are plenty of guides on YouTube to assist you in unlocking this ring. So you know how I mentioned Fort Free being a skilling hub? Well, the PVM hub, also known as War's Retreat, is the exact opposite. Once you hit level 60 combat or 1000 total level, you gain access to the PVM hub, which you can access from this area near the Draenor Lodestone. The PVM hub can give you access to a direct bank teleport, permanent fire that provides you a bonfire boost, an altar that allows you to replenish prayer and summoning points, adrenaline crystals to charge your adrenaline, and boss portals to teleport straight to a boss without actually having to walk there after getting your very first kill. Now, you will not have access to all these mentioned bonuses straight away, but by getting certain boss kill count thresholds, you will unlock these benefits in addition to another currency called Marks of War. Marks of War can be used to buy PVM auras such as the Maniacal Aura that will increase your damage and accuracy, or lower tier auras such as the Vampirism Aura, which will heal you for a part of the damage you deal. Many useful abilities are locked behind some kind of activity, and the Anima Island abilities are no different. The main two abilities you want to get from this minigame are Devotion and Tuska's Wrath, although Devotion can also be unlocked from killing Goldor's Dungeon 1 minions like these orcs, which are probably a lot faster. Devotion reduces all damage taken from the combat style you are praying against to 1 for 9.6 seconds, which can be extended by killing enemies to a maximum of 19.2 seconds. This is useful for many AFK Slayer creatures and for pretty much any boss. Tuska's Wrath deals 10,000% of your Slayer level as damage to your target when on Slayer task, essentially making it your strongest ability when on Slayer task. Unlocking abilities at the Anima Islands takes a while though, as every game of 20 minutes gives you a maximum of 1,000 points if done correctly. A guide for this minigame will be linked in the description below. Since we're on the topic of abilities anyway, another quest you should complete early on is the Dig Site quest. This quest unlocks 4 abilities, being the Tendril abilities for each combat style and the Ice Asylum ability. While the latter is not all that useful, the Tendril abilities are. The melee and magic variants are useful when using certain higher tier weapons, but the ranged version is much more usable, called Shadow Tendril. After Snapshot and Rapid Fire, it will be your third best threshold to use in a damage rotation, as it's much stronger than the Bombardment ability. Now, I know I'm talking a lot about quests, but at least they are free. The City of Sintistan quest, not to be confused with the Temple at Sintistan quest, which is also useful to do, is a quest that will unlock the best magic spells in the game, like Exsanguinate and Incite Fear. It also unlocks a defensive spell called Animate Dead, which will reduce damage based on your defense level and armor bonus when wielding magic tank armor, beneficial for learners, and for AFK Slayer methods. While an anime dead nerf is in the talks and testing, it will still be incredibly powerful after these nerfs and a must-have unlock. Now, if you're ever sad about not being able to afford an Amulet of Souls, or even better, an Essence of Finality Amulet, well then I have good news for you. One of the strongest amulets in the game is completely free, and it's called the Dragon Rider Amulet. This amulet provides you with a solid strength bonus, best in class prayer bonus, and a 10% damage buff to the Dragon Breath ability with an additional 10% chance to burn your opponent with a bleeding effect that will hit your opponent for an additional 3 times. The only downside to this amulet is that you're going to need to do a good amount of questing before you can unlock it, as it requires the one-of-a-kind quest. Another solid amulet to unlock, albeit a situational one, is the Salve Amulet. More specifically, the enchanted version. This amulet provides you with a 20% damage and accuracy buff when fighting undead creatures. Think Revenants, Armored Phantoms, enemies inside Elite Dungeon 3 such as zombies and necromancers, and even the Barrows and Rise of the Six bosses since a recent update. To unlock this amulet, all you need to do is complete the Haunted Mine quest and complete the Lair of Tarn Razalor mini quest to enchant it. With that being said, we've covered the majority of free PVM unlocks, and while I know the fort isn't technically free to build, it is free to unlock it. Because of that exception, I'd also like to give an honorable mention to the full Slayer helmet, which is one of the most useful PVM items in the game. Unlock using Slayer points, but requires some money to create. It provides you a 12.5% plus extra damage and accuracy when on Slayer task, in addition to many more buffs, but since it costs money to create, I excluded it from the initial list. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it interesting. If you did, leave a like down below and maybe even consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. I excluded it from the initial list. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it interesting. If you did, leave a like down below and maybe even consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
and just say, oh my god, again, it's too easy. No way. No way. No way.
Lately, I've been seeing so many posts on Reddit and people messaging in Discord and stuff saying that they've returned to the game. And while we're in a content drought right now, it seems like people returning to the game or newer players coming to the game is at a bit of a high, and I don't really know why. However, of course, I thought this would maybe a good time now then to make a couple of beginner videos. So over the next couple of days, you're probably going to see me putting out a couple of videos focused on beginner players. So in this video, we're going to go through some upgrades and unlocks for new and returning players. Let's go. Now, if you are a new or returning player to RuneScape, even though the combat beta is coming out on Monday, which you may hear about, where magic, melee, and ranged is getting a bit of a buff and a bit of quality of life upgrades, the overall best combat style for you to focus on is probably still going to be necromancy. Now, the reason I would suggest this as tip number one is necromancy combat. If you're looking into trying to get into combat, whether it be Slayer, whether it be PVM and trying to reach high level bosses and stuff, necromancy is still by far the easiest and cheapest combat style to get into and actually reach the high levels as well. Accessing level 90 combat gear has had a pretty decent pathway through necromancy, and not only are you going to be incredibly strong by the time you reach this, you'll go through and do it in quests, and it will teach you how to craft that gear too, and it'll take you off into a good amount of unlocks and adventures along the way too, which you might as well do as a newer returning player. But it's also by far the cheapest option for you to get this. The tier 90 combat gear that you'll get from progressing through your necromancy quest lines and all of that sort of like gear progression is going to be on par, if not better, than the other tier 90 combat styles in the game. But on screen will be a couple of examples of why necromancy is just more realistic for the average player, which I think is a good thing in terms of giving people a good way to access that sort of content as well. So as you can see, the cost difference between tier 90 combat gear for necromancy and other combat styles is very high, meaning the time investment to actually reach this is going to be a hell of a lot better. But it's also worth keeping in mind that necromancy, as of right now of making this video, is a hell of a lot stronger than the other styles at this level. Not to mention, necromancy being the newest combat style to the game, it is much more new player friendly and more intuitive to actually use and follow through. This means that it's going to be way less confusing. There is nowhere near as many switches, and it just flows really nicely. You're kind of given everything you would need in combat, and it feels kind of good to use. So for tip one, I would suggest focusing on necromancy as your first combat style if you haven't got your hands on it already. Now, to do this for a new player, you are going to want to start the necromancy quest line. So go into your quest log, find that, set it as your active quest, and then follow the map until you reach it. The easiest way is to find the drain or lodestone or teleport there if you already have it. One of the first items that a new or returning player will want to get their hands on is the Wicked Hood. You can get this from talking to Tam McGrubber in Burthorpe, as seen on screen now. Now, the reason you're going to want this is because it offers a lot of teleports that are super useful. Each day you can use it to teleport to rune crafting altars and withdraw some essence to get some free runes, but also it'll teleport you directly to the Wizard's Tower. You can use this to access the Rune Goldberg machine, which you should do daily, and make Viswax. I'll leave a link to Viswax in the description, but basically doing Viswax as a daily is a great way to build that coin pouch that you have for very little effort. Also, this is free, so I guess that's the best version of cheap as well. An absolutely value item that you should get at some point is going to be the Ring of Fortune. I've mentioned this loads in the past, but the Ring of Fortune is going to give you infinite teleports to the Grand Exchange, which is the marketplace you're going to be at all the time. Probably going to be your banking hub for most players as well. This thing only costs around about 1 mil on the Grand Exchange, which isn't too difficult to get your hands on these days. And also for a low level player, it has some pretty decent stats. You can just keep this as your main ring for a while and use it to teleport for free. Now, these next upgrades actually aren't things that you want to grab with in-game gold or anything like that, but it is in fact going to be from loyalty points. The longer you are a member, you are going to gain loyalty points. You can spend these loyalty points on auras, and auras are absolutely game changing for everything, not just like combat or anything like that, but skilling as well. If you're going to be leveling your account along the way, you're going to get a lot of benefits from actually using auras to boost all of the things that you do. For example, you can have something that'll increase how fast you collect fish when you do fishing, how fast you chop down trees, many different things. Anything that you think of in game that you're going to be doing is probably going to have a respective aura to go along with it. Now, you unlock these again with loyalty points, which you'll get the more time you spend as a member in the game, the more loyalty points you're going to get. Now, if you are a returning player, it's worth checking. You may already have some of these built up, and don't forget about them. You want to check out auras, see if there's any that's going to help you out on what you're working on at the time. As a newer player though, if you've been a member for a month, 2 months, 3 months, or if you buy the Premiership membership, you're going to get a big bunch of loyalty points anyway, so have a look in the loyalty store. But keep in mind, loyalty points kind of are slow to get in the future if you are going to just be getting it on a month-by-month basis. So focus on what you need and spend them wisely to make sure that they are worthwhile. It's also probably worth mentioning here that the big DPS combat auras, the ones that you absolutely want to get, aren't actually on the loyalty store anymore. These are in fact sold by War at War's Retreat. So once you access the War's Retreat area, again I'll link this in the description, you'll be able to collect up marks of War for killing any boss of any size, so the low level bosses and the high level bosses, and then spend those on combat auras as well. But have a look through the auras, see what ones you need, see if they have any value to you, and take advantage of those loyalty points. For number 5, we'll quickly stick to the actual Solomon store for just a second and talk about the fact that, one, as a member you can get free items here every now and again, so check on the free for members section, but also you can get some extra bank boosters in the same place as well. So these are always free for members. If you're a member right now, anyone watching this video, and you don't have the free bank boosters, what are you doing? Get in there, click them, and get all the stuff that's free. Free stuff is great. I love it. Right now there's an ornate heavy melee weapon pack. Who needs that? But I'm still gonna get it. It's great. Okay, let's move on. So a little while ago, like Christmas time, I released these potion lamps on the channel as the first merch launch ever, and you guys sold them out instantly. It was like a day and you were gone. They were gone. Yeah, they just went. So a lot of you guys who wanted them didn't actually manage to get your hands on them, and since then I have quite often heard, are you bringing them back? Are you going to be bringing they're back, guys? They're back. Right now you are feasting your eyes on the Potion Lamp 2.0, which do have a couple of differences but are just as epic as ever. They're available right now on the merch store, so there's a link in the pinned comment more than likely, or the description, so go and check it out if you're interested, and let's carry on with this video. Nice easy way to get yourself some extra damage while doing PVM along the way, which doesn't have a ton of requirements, is completing the quest Horror from the Deep. At the end of this quest you will then be able to use a god book, which will allow you to get some extra benefits from this in combat. It's one, going to give you some stats from your pocket slot alone, but two, when you put some pages in it to charge it, you'll get different effects from all the different god books. Again, I will link this in the description so you can look at the different god books and stuff, and you can get yourself those benefits. But these are super cheap for what they give, and you'll use them for a long time in the future. For those of you that do take the path of the Necromancer, the people who like to summon those little ghosties and ghoulies, you're going to want to get your hands on an item along the way called a Nexus. Specifically, I'd be talking about the Death Warden Nexus, because we're aiming this video on new or beginner players or returning players, right? So this is a level 60 item for necromancy. You will have to have level 60 necromancy to use this, but you will also need to have 55 crafting to be able to make it. Once you have these requirements though, it is absolutely worth crafting yourself one of these. Again, it will be linked in the description. You will be able to store all, and I mean all, of your necromancy supplies that you use for combat in here. Ectoplasm and every type of rune will go in here, saving you up to 5 inventory spaces. 5. This is crazy. This is a lot. You're getting yourself a lot of inventory space back here, so definitely grab yourself a Nexus as soon as you can if you are using necromancy. Next up, I'm going to mention the ability Devotion. This is a defense ability which is absolutely worth getting, and you're going to use it forever. Like, it's going to be something that you use early on all the way through the game, and you'll use it at the end game bosses as well, because it's going to give you 100% effectiveness on your protection prayers, and it lasts for 9.6 seconds. Now you can unlock this from the Tusker minigame, the Anima Islands minigame, which takes quite a while to do, and I wouldn't really recommend it. Or you could go to the God Wars dungeon and kill the Bandos or the Armadillo monsters that are in there. I would recommend killing the Bandos ones, as they can grit them up nice and easy. It's a lot easier than the Armadillo ones, and you can AoE them down a little bit easier. And while this is counted as a rare drop, it takes a lot less time on average, I believe, to actually get it from there than it does to go ahead and do the actual minigame. Now you could go super unlucky here, but you could also get really lucky, but on average you're going to get this quicker. I've done this on 3 accounts, I believe, at this point, and I've done it every single time here, and it's been pretty quick. Like, it's been not that bad. I just AFK here with a little bit of either chinchompers or anything that's AoE that you can, and it's pretty easy to get. It's worth mentioning that you're also going to get the sacrifice ability from doing the same thing, which will give you a 25% of your damage dealt as a heal back to yourself. But if you actually kill the target, then it'll heal you 100% of the damage that you deal. So it's another pretty useful ability for like leveling, AFKing, these sort of things. But devotion is the main reason you would do this, because devotion is absolutely insane. Now, if for some reason you aren't using necromancy, you've chosen to use magic or ranged, you're going to want to unlock the ability Sunshine and Death Swiftness. Now, you're going to want to complete the World Wakes quest to do this. However, there's a little bit of a confusing thing with this, and if you look at the World Wakes quest, to complete it, it's going to say you need all these other things and tons of levels and whatever. It's confusing, and you're like, I can't do that yet. But the way the World Wakes quest works is it has kind of two endings. You can complete the quest to a certain amount, and then you'll be given the Death Swiftness and the Sunshine abilities, and this bit has absolutely no requirements whatsoever. You're going to want to have some combat stats because you are going to be fighting in the actual quest line, but you are able to complete this with no requirements technically, and so you can grab these pretty early on. So if you are using ranged or magic, this is definitely one that you want to tick off. It's not going to cost you any money, it's just going to cost you a bit of time, and these are the most important unlocks you could probably get for those, because the Death Swiftness and Sunshine abilities are the most important abilities in your DPS rotations, so you definitely want these. Moving on from that to something relevant, but this one actually does cost a decent amount of GP. It's about 7 million GP, which sounds expensive, but for what it is, for an average player like the beginner, like newer player, they're getting into combat and stuff like that. If you just unlock Death Swiftness and Sunshine, you're also going to want to get Planted Feet as a perk on your weapons. Now, this is through invention, so again, you are going to be towards like the mid to end game here. You're probably a returning player, or maybe you just want to add this to your list for a beginner player. This is something you want to focus on eventually. It is going to cost you around about 7 mil to attempt this, to get just the basic version of the actual perk, which is still worth getting. But the Planted Feet perk is going to increase the duration of your Sunshine or Death Swiftness, which is absolutely worth it, because across all of the invention perks for your gear, this works out to be best in slot and the most important one to get, I do believe, in terms of damage increase. So you definitely want to grab this. 7 mil for a guaranteed roll on it though, it's pretty good. Like, I think that's fine. So if you're a mage or a ranger, make sure you take advantage of this if you haven't already. And that's all I've got for you guys today, so leave any thoughts in the comments, ask any questions that you like. I'll reply to as many as possible. Join the Discord, which is linked as well, if you have any questions or anything like that, or want to be part of the community. Check out the merch. To be best in slot, and the most important one to get, I do believe, in terms of damage increase. So you definitely want to grab this. 7 mil for a guaranteed roll on it though, it's pretty good. Like, I think that's fine. So if you're a mage or a ranger, make sure you take advantage of this if you haven't already. And that's all I've got for you guys today, so leave any thoughts in the comments, ask any questions that you like. I'll reply to as many as possible. Join the Discord, which is linked as well, if you have any questions or anything like that, or want to be part of the community. Check out the merch.
It doesn't apply to this god. We revere and honor.
That's alright, we'll be... Wait, what? Well, I used to do all my Araxi kills with magic, all of them. So it kind of feels good to use range, if I'm honest. Oh, you are joking. Whatever. Are you still getting acid there? You're not, yeah, of course not. Good, 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 good. Just ignore the eggs and recover spiders. I mean, we could. Oh, yeah, we could do. I suppose that would make sense. But then you gotta tank the bomb. It's just force of habits with mechanics, you know. How you doing, no one? We're back at the spider. You know full well how I feel about the spider, but we'll be okay. We'll be okay. We got one leg piece yesterday. I don't know if you missed it or not. But so we're locked in. We're locked in till the end now. Scythe and Trim Masterwork is such an amazing combo for Rax. Yeah, I'm pretty sure melee is the best here, right? At least I'm pretty sure it is. Don't ignore the eggs and spiders. It takes like 2 seconds. Yeah, I think he means like in the situation that the ramp would have to go out of the acid. I think otherwise, yeah, you'd stand on them. Okay, well, that'll do. Whatever. I actually thought the bomb had gone for some reason. Locked in for another 250 kill count. I mean, hopefully not, but I guess we'll see what happens. It seems awfully bright in here today. Like, I know I've got the midday skybox on, but it seems more bright than normal. Weirdly. Melee's pretty good, but full meleeing, obviously, just camping a scythe and probably you would use the switches, right? I'm pretty sure if you want the best out of it. Probably didn't need to ECB spec for 12k. Let's be honest, but okay. Come on, this is slow as frick. There we go. Try to bring in Nightstone next kill if you have one. What does the Nightstone do? Why are Ascensions so cheap? Because Nox bows are technically better than Ascensions now. So it makes sense that they're dropping in price. Cool. Kill number 1 done. Why does Vuln Bomb not work on Rax? Rax can remove any debuffs. So every now and again, he will remove debuffs, and there's just no point. Okay, 193k. The loot here is pretty terrible, except for the leg pieces and the hilts, of course. But you know, it's okay. We can get onyxes too every now and again, but regular loot's pretty trash. Got an egg though, so that makes up for it. Nice, nice. Number 14. There we go. Fun Bomb does technically work. Yeah, people should use it like for the few seconds that you get out of it if you're doing speed kills, of course. But otherwise, there's no point. But it removes